Breaking tonight, the monster that is Hurricane Milton now bearing down on Florida. There's no more time to run. The life-threatening storm pounding the Gulf Coast after spawning tornado after tornado.
This hurricane is going to pack a major, major punch.
The dangerous hours ahead. Our team is in the storm zone. CBC News is also in northern Israel as Hezbollah fires a barrage of missiles from Lebanon. And a new warning about all those influencers and all their fitness advice.
If you're not doing lymphatic massages every morning, this is why you're bloated.
Why you may want to just keep scrolling.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. We have breaking news tonight out of Florida, where Hurricane Milton has been battering the Gulf Coast for hours after making landfall in Sarasota County. So this is the scene just north in St. Petersburg tonight, where sheets of rain suddenly came crashing down, pushed along the empty streets by intense winds topping 150 kilometers per hour. And this is just a glimpse of the full picture. Right now, there are already reports more than 1 million homes and businesses in Florida are without power. And Milton's wrath, of course, is far from over. It's expected to push across the state of Florida for several hours, all the while maintaining its hurricane status and threatening every person and thing that gets caught in its path. Katie Simpson is in Orlando, just outside of the evacuation zone, but still within Milton's reach. Katie, can you give us a sense of what you're seeing so far?
Yeah, Adrienne, the winds have really picked up. You can probably hear a bit of it. At times, the winds start to howl. The rain is intensifying, and we're actually starting to see some debris behind us. Some small, but some tree branches are down as a result of the intensifying winds and things that are moving around here. Remember, it has already been a chaotic 24 hours in Florida, and this is really just the start of it. By all measures, Hurricane Milton is nothing short of catastrophic. A monster of a storm that's already having a devastating impact, spawning dozens of tornado warnings across Florida, with touchdowns reported in and around Fort Myers, leaving behind a dangerous trail of destruction. This debris could be picked up by hurricane-force winds and become projectiles. All of this well before the worst even arrives.
There is high confidence that this hurricane is going to pack a major, major punch and do an awful lot of damage.
It's looking like the storm of the century. I know it's really tough leaving behind your home, your belongings, everything you own. But I urge everyone in Hurricane Milton's path to follow all safety instructions.
Gulf Coast communities from Sarasota to St. Petersburg could see storm surge up to 4 meters and winds peaking around 200 kilometers per hour. For anyone who ignored evacuation orders, police repeated the same blunt message they delivered before Hurricane Helene hit.
Find yourself a permanent marker, write your name, your date of birth, and your next of kin on your arm so we know who you are and who to contact.
Many have taken the warnings seriously, the urgent effort to flee triggering a different set of concerns. One of the biggest challenges on the ground in Florida right now has to do with fuel. So many people have been rushing to get out that gas stations have had to tape up their pumps because they're out of gas. Though leaving town isn't an option for everyone, shelters in the storm's path are starting to fill up.
It's a lot of anxiety, plus I'm homeless. So living in my car and trying to equip with all of this is pretty difficult.
In central Florida, the biggest concern is flash flooding. While there are no evacuation orders here, some people are on edge.
It's very nerve-wracking right now because I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Adrienne, part of that uncertainty and part of that concern has to do with the size and the scope of this hurricane. Milton entered Florida a Category 3 storm, and it's expected to exit Florida still such a strong, powerful storm, still a hurricane status. That is the expectation.
So, Katie, clearly you spent this day talking to people as they made their final preparations. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you heard?
Well, really what stands out is the desperation in this moment. We spoke with a man who lives in a trailer. His wife is bedridden, and he was running practice drills to see how quickly he could get her out of the house if they had to make a run for it. Right now, they are hunkering down, but like so many people we spoke with today, they're relying largely on hope.
All right, Katie Simpson in Orlando tonight. Next, let's go to CBC News meteorologist Ryan Snodden. Ryan, can you take us through the next few presumably very dangerous hours?
Yeah, absolutely, Adrienne. And you know, the heavy rain already underway, the damaging winds already underway. We've had tornadoes today across the state of Florida, and the storm surge is already increasing. And the next few hours indeed are going to be dangerous. The storm making landfall between Tampa and Cape Coral there along the coast. The heaviest rain along and to the north of that track. The widespread damaging winds, though, indeed will be widespread. 300 kilometers from the center of this storm, we'll see tropical storm force winds. And so it is going to be a long night, and it is going to be a long Thursday for the state of Florida before this thing finally kicks out late Thursday, likely still as a hurricane. Now, the storm surge continues to be the most pressing issue with this storm. With a track south of Tampa, looks like the most severe storm surge will be from around Sarasota down towards Boca Grande. Though Cape Coral, that area again is also going to be quite vulnerable. Maximum wind threat, I talked about how widespread those winds will be. Look how strong they'll be, especially in the Tampa-Sarasota area. This is going to be weeks to get folks back hooked up to the electrical grid. Rainfall, again, 100 to 300 millimeters. That is a foot of rain, potentially more locally, Adrienne. It is going to be a mess.
Wow, this is all staggering. All right, Ryan Snodden in Halifax for us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, one of the cities taking a direct hit tonight is Clearwater. Canadians know Clearwater. It's just west of Tampa along the coast. As Milton was approaching, we reached the mayor, Bruce Rector. Mr. Mayor, thanks for joining us. This hurricane has clearly barreled in a lot faster, I think, than some anticipated. What's been the hardest part of getting people to safety?
Well, it was a little easier this time because we just had a hurricane 2 weeks ago that was devastating. There were terrible stories about folks choosing to stay and surviving the night. So getting people to evacuate, particularly from the barrier islands, Clearwater Beach, was a little easier this time. I'm always afraid that there are still a few people out there, and I pray for them right now, but I think that we evacuated most people off the beach.
In the event, as you suggest, that there are people who haven't left, what is the plan for them if they get in trouble? Because as I understand it, you and your first responders are staying put. So if they make a call, is anyone coming for them?
Not right now. We've already pulled people off, pulled our first responders back for their own safety. I try to tell folks before the evacuation time ends that those first responders, they have loved ones too. They have children, and we just can't put their lives at risk by putting them in harm's way. So we've already pulled them off. I think the biggest challenge we have right now is there was so much debris left over from Hurricane Helene that we were not able to get it all off the islands before this storm came in. And we've now got potentially sustained winds of 100 miles an hour, which will be blowing that debris around. So in addition to the storm surge risk, there's debris flying around probably. And if you're out there, if you're anywhere in Clearwater or Dunedin or anywhere here close by, you need to shelter in place right now because it's way too dangerous to be outside.
Absolutely. That debris those are like missiles. Mayor Rector, thank you for taking time for us. Best to you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is the view about 70 kilometers from the center of the hurricane from an unmanned boat. You can see it lurching wildly as it's tossed on waves more than 8 meters tall. And that water in the Gulf of Mexico is almost as warm as bath water. As Anand Ram shows us, experts say that is helping fuel Milton. But how fast the storm came together astonished even them.
Milton started as a growl in the Gulf of Mexico, and within 2 days became a terrifying roar. the fastest shift from tropical depression to Category 5 hurricane ever seen there.
2 days later, we were at 180 miles per hour winds. That kind of intensification is just extremely rare, if not unheard of.
It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours.
That speed leaving seasoned weather watchers speechless.
I apologize. This is just horrific.
And what's feeding the beast? What fed Hurricane Helene just before it? Record ocean heat. This is the global average sea surface temperatures for roughly the last 30 years. But in 2023 and 2024, every month the heat has surpassed that by a huge margin. And zooming into the Gulf of Mexico, it's more intense. 2024's heat so far, higher than the last decade. And a few degrees matter.
Small differences in temperature, boom, big differences in the amount of water vapor that's getting put into the atmosphere. And that water vapor is really the fuel of the storm.
The other conditions that let Milton rage was a lack of other weather patterns, slower winds, air offering less resistance to the rapidly forming vortex. Watching that buildup especially troubling for those in the hurricane's path.
Especially for the area that I grew up in, I feel it's very heavy.
And climate scientists link the warm oceans that supercharged Milton to the planet warming effect from burning fossil fuels.
It traps energy around the planet close to the surface and warms up our air temperatures. But that also contributes to that heat getting eventually down into the ocean.
And as Florida braces for the might of Milton, researchers with World Weather Attribution are already looking at how much of its scale and ferocity was caused by climate change. That analysis expected within days. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
Turning to other news now, the Canadian government says it will commit $15 million in its humanitarian aid package to Lebanon as the fighting between Israel and the militant group Hezbollah ramps up.
This will go towards food, water, emergency health services, and protection services to families that are most affected and in urgent need today in Lebanon.
The new money adds to $10 million announced last month. The government is also matching donations up to $6 million. Well, in the region, the situation between Israel and Hezbollah is escalating with more deadly strikes. Adding to the tension, a retaliatory Israeli strike on Iran is expected at any time. Chris Brown shows us the latest destruction in northern Israel.
In Israel's north, alerts from incoming Hezbollah missiles were constant, with the streaks of Israeli interceptors filling the skies, knocking out most, but not all. The worst damage was in Kiryat Shimona, where a couple reportedly out walking their dog was killed. And in Haifa, 5 people were sent to hospital with injuries. Our CBC News team visited the scene of an earlier strike that knocked a hole in the roof of an apartment building, leaving missile fragments everywhere but not causing any injuries. There was a big noise and a lot of dust, said the maintenance manager, who'd been in the apartment 30 seconds before. People can't live here because they're afraid to come back and sleep here. From the owner of the fishing shop below, we heard support for Israel's actions against Hezbollah in Lebanon. I think this is very good, he said. What did Netanyahu say? This is for generations to come, that there won't be any wars anymore. Since Israel launched its ground invasion of Lebanon, the Haifa area, 40 kilometers south of the border, in Israel's third largest city, has become one of Hezbollah's key targets. After having much of its leadership assassinated by Israel, Hezbollah has attempted to project strength with its mass rocket fires and by claiming that Israeli troops have made little progress on the ground.
The country should be very concerned.
Ehud Omer is a former Israeli prime minister. He negotiated Israel's exit from the last war with Lebanon in 2006, and he fears the cost of defeating Hezbollah militarily is too high.
Are we ready to have 100 missiles, rockets shot at Israeli civilian centers every day with more than 1 million people sitting in shelters for the whole day? I mean, what is the strategy?
In Lebanon, Israel's air assault has been unrelenting, with at least 4 people killed near Sidon at a building housing displaced families, according to the local mayor. Joe Biden had his first phone call in weeks with Benjamin Netanyahu amid reports the two leaders have had serious disagreements, including on Israel's response to Iran. Israel's defense minister offered this foreshadowing: our response will be deadly, precise, and above all, surprising. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Here in Toronto, a bus driver is being celebrated tonight for saving a man from a burning car just moments after a three-vehicle crash. Police say a man was speeding in a Honda that may have been stolen when he slammed into a bus, causing it to hit a second bus. The car then burst into flames. That is when the bus driver jumped into action.
Through the heroic efforts, actually, of the TTC bus driver, that driver actually pulled the occupant of the Honda out of the vehicle, and we are investigating.
The Honda driver was taken to hospital with critical injuries. 3 others suffered minor injuries. A new survey is shedding light on how Canadians earn a living. It shows millions are taking on gig work on top of their full-time jobs to help pay the bills. Susanna Da Silva takes us through the numbers.
3, 2, 1.
Emma Tsui has the morning off from her full-time job, that is.
It is a juggle because after working hour, after full-time job, if I'm not doing a photo shoot, then I'm editing photos.
Okay, that's good.
She took up photography after losing her job during COVID, but even after getting another full-time job working on the website of a Canadian airline, she didn't stop.
If I don't have that additional income, then I'm basically living paycheck to paycheck.
3, 2.
Her story is one shared by millions of Canadians, according to a new survey by insurance company Securian in partnership with the Angus Reid Institute. It found 22% of Canadians, or 7.3 million people, are doing gig work. That is short-term contract work or one-off projects. Only a small fraction of those are food delivery or ride-sharing.
There's a lot of diverse gig work out there, like dog walking, photography, consulting, digital platforms.
And financial need is a big driver, with 53% doing gig work to cover increasing basic costs or to be able to put some money aside, despite the fact 56% have full-time jobs and 44% already earn more than $100,000 from their primary job.
Even folks that are earning incomes that we would have thought would be more than sufficient in previous times are really feeling some financial stress.
But this expert says it is employers who have been pushing the trend for years.
Where they're not necessarily going to be offering the same level of, of benefits, they're not making pension contributions.
Luckily for Emma Tsui, her photography gig has taken off.
The additional income coming from photography allows me to save for my first down payment, as well as, I use that money for travels and whatnot. So just to live a little bit more.
Yeah, one more.
Like many Canadians, her side gig is now a much-needed part of life. Susanna Da Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
A new season is underway for fans of the NHL, but this year with a new wrinkle.
I think we're headed for an era of greater complication.
Catching a game on TV could get more tricky and costly. Plus, researchers have crunched the data on social media fitness tips.
Here's everything I got to eat today on bikini prep.
Questioning the credentials of some fitness influencers. And later, a light show in space.
This is where space and Earth meet.
We're back in 2 minutes. And that is the end of the Tropicana Las Vegas. After 67 years, it was one of the oldest hotels on the Strip. The planned implosion was carried out early this morning after an elaborate fireworks show. Once the most expensive resort in Vegas, now the Tropicana is being replaced by a state-of-the-art Major League Baseball stadium. That facility will be home to the Athletics when it's complete in 2028. Well, 6 Canadian teams open their NHL seasons tonight, but watching hockey is now more complicated and costly. Senior business reporter Peter Armstrong explains how streaming giants are getting a piece of the action.
Opening night, a new season, new hope for fans, a fresh start for teams.
Drops one, shot, score!
And this season, it's not just new teams or new plans, it's new ways to watch as well.
It's a new home for hockey.
Amazon Prime is now streaming some hockey games after making a deal with Rogers.
Look at Cooley go through the middle of the ice.
It's all part of a rapidly changing broadcast landscape. To watch every NHL game this season, you'll need to subscribe to Sportsnet, TSN, TVA, and Amazon Prime.
I think we're headed for an era of greater complication.
Back in 2013, Rogers Communications bought up the exclusive rights to all nationally broadcast NHL games for $5.2 billion. That deal doesn't expire until the end of next season. But NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman says negotiations will start soon, the beginning of 2025, he told the Sports Business Journal last month, adding that Rogers gets first crack at renegotiating its current deal.
It's something we're very interested in and something we will chase and certainly expect to be at the table.
Second and goal. Other sports have sold rights across multiple platforms, driving up prices and making it harder to know where games are available.
If you have 6 people that want your product, then you can figure a creative way to give each of the 6 a slice. You will get more than if you charge one the entire amount of money.
And every year, there are more ways to slice that pie. And though some may bemoan the changes,
I think it's actually going to be easier, and they're trying to move the product to where people are, as opposed to trying to preserve an old model.
It's on Monday.
Whether it's the game or the way we watch it, the old model is long gone. And changes to how we watch the game are only starting as the NHL gets closer to a new deal in 2026. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
There is a lot on the line when Americans head to the polls next month, and it's not just picking a president.
I think the stakes couldn't be higher.
Access to abortion is on the ballot in 10 states, with women's reproductive rights hanging in the balance.
But what about the child? And what about the father?
But first,
JD Vance here, playing a little buck hunter before a rally in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
campaigning online, why political parties are turning to non-traditional media sources to get their messages out. The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. So this is a live look at what is unfolding in Florida tonight. Hurricane Milton has made landfall as a Category 3 storm with clearly fierce winds and a risk of dangerous storm surges. Officials have warned residents along the coast to get out. We're going to keep watch on this breaking story throughout the hour. Now, when it comes to health and exercise, many Canadians are turning to social media for tips. But as Jennifer Yoon tells us, research shows the rise of fitness influencers could be causing harm.
Cameras and tripods between the weights. An influencer-friendly gym.
Me, when I was bigger.
For years, as she lost weight, this woman says she was an avid consumer of FitTok.
I would look at TikTok influencers in the fitness industry and kind of feel like that's the kind of life I wanted to live.
Now she's the one posting, and fitness videos like hers get huge numbers of views.
Here's everything I got to eat today on Bikini Prep.
But researchers who analyzed some 200 TikTok videos from fitness influencers say 60% were misleading or harmful.
If you're not doing lymphatic massages every morning, this is why you're bloated.
They say 95% of those posting did not show relevant credentials.
The reason you have a pancake ass is because...
And they estimated about half the videos objectified specific body parts of both men and women.
On TikTok, you don't have to search hard for content. It just gets offered to you. And the tone and
framing often makes it feel like you have a personal connection with the poster.
It's almost like just another friend telling them rather than a random person on the TV or in a magazine.
The impact of these videos may not be clear, but a different survey published last year found that time spent with this kind of content really can influence how young people feel.
If you're not muscular like the images that you see, it's also been associated with body dissatisfaction because you're not meeting the ideal standards that you're seeing online.
But health tips online don't have to be negative. A team at Harvard University tried an experiment with mental health influencers, giving them information kits plus virtual and in-person training.
They do indeed
take that information up and work it into the videos.
He thinks a similar model could work in fitness. For viewers, some common sense advice. Moderation and skepticism are key.
I kind of take everything with a grain of salt.
Even for the influencers themselves. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Tonight, we're drilling into the U.S. campaign with less than 4 weeks to go. The election push for abortion rights in Florida and the people pushing back.
There are just certain things we cannot stay quiet about.
But first, Kamala Harris appeared on Call Her Daddy this week.
J.D. Vance called women who don't have kids childless cat ladies. What message do you think this sends to women?
The podcast is known for celebrity interviews and relationship advice, not election talk. Reaction on social media was swift, with some criticizing show host Alex Cooper for delving into politics.
Biden is just so bad. He is so bad.
But as the election nears, expect to see more political content popping up in your feed.
J.D. Vance here, playing a little buck hunter before a rally in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
All right, this thing, old school carburetor.
This is all strategy. So who has yet to be influenced? Here to break it down are two people who've been following the race for a very long time. We have CBC correspondents Alex Pineda in Washington, Ellen Morrow in Toronto. Alex, let's start with you. That podcast, Call Her Daddy, has millions of followers. Trump has appeared on Ultimate Fighting podcast. But who is it that the Harris and Trump campaigns actually think they can convince with these kinds of appearances and so late in the game?
Yeah, let's just remember a fundamental fact about this election is it's exceptionally close. And it's not just the national race that's close, but every single swing state is in a statistical dead heat. It's maybe the closest race in decades. I just imagine 7 consecutive coin tosses. That's where we're at. So the campaigns are scrounging for any votes they can find anywhere. And to stick with that analogy about coins, these campaigns are foraging for loose change in the couch. So who are they looking for? Well, there are 2 types of swing voters. The type you try to persuade to switch. You know, you tell them, don't vote for that party, come vote for mine. The Liz Cheney for Harris type. But there's an even larger group of swing voter, and that's the type you mobilize. These voters don't like politics very much. The key here is just getting them to show up and vote at all. Adrienne, can you put up a survey from Ipsos?
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so I think this is a survey you shared with us, Alex, that shows how likely it is people will vote in November on a scale of 1 to 10. Obviously, the people over here definitely won't be voting. The people over here definitely will. But I think what you're actually interested in is this part right in the middle, the ones who aren't so sure. So why don't we just pull that up, zoom in, so you can talk about that.
Exactly. Look at all those 5s, those 6s, those 7s out there. It's about a dozen percentage points of the electorate. And that's where your loose change is. The key with these people isn't convincing them that Donald Trump is good or bad or Kamala Harris is good or bad. The key for campaigns here is figuring out, okay, where are the 5s, the 6s, and the 7s who might support us? And how do we convince them to care about this election, to get them off that couch and casting a ballot?
Okay, so as Alex says, Kamala Harris isn't the only one chasing those voters in the middle, the ones who aren't so sure what they're going to do. Donald Trump was in Pennsylvania over the weekend campaigning with Elon Musk by his side. Ellen, how big a deal was that?
Well, it seemed like a really big deal for Elon Musk. He looked very happy, jumping up and down on stage even. Now, Musk is, of course, a very divisive figure. He also has a really devoted online fan base, largely made up of younger men. And that's a key group for Donald Trump. He's been trying to fire that group up, to mobilize them for months. And Trump's doing it by trying to present and appeal to this kind of macho form of masculinity. So Elon Musk on stage praised Trump for his fist pump after he was hit in that July assassination attempt. Trump's gone on Ultimate Fighting Championship UFC podcast. He was on Logan Paul's podcast. Paul, a WWE wrestler and controversial influencer with millions of followers. Trump also did a live stream with another right-wing influencer that got hundreds of thousands of views. And all of this also really speaks speaks to the really stark gender gap of this campaign. Some polls have suggested that young women are becoming more progressive and young men more conservative. So Trump is talking to these fighter guys who present as sort of alpha males, or try to, while Kamala Harris is on Call Her Daddy talking about reproductive rights. But Kamala Harris is also going after male voters as well. She went on Howard Stern this week, and a member of the Harris campaign youth team was really explicit about why, pointing out that Stern gets 10 million listeners, and most, he said, are younger men without a college degree. So to go back to Alex's metaphor, we are seeing this scrounging for voters anywhere and everywhere, trying to get them out to the polls.
It seems also that part of the strategy of these choices is clearly reaching people who just aren't consuming traditional media.
Absolutely. I mean, we've reached a milestone in this election where you could feel the balance of power tilting away from traditional media to non-traditional types. And I'm not just talking about social platforms like Facebook and Instagram. I mean, they've been around for a while. What I'm talking about are the new stars of this digital ecosystem, people with a huge following. And you really saw this at the Democratic Convention, where some of the best real estate on the convention floor was reserved for these influencers. And I'll never forget being in line outside the arena in Chicago and meeting a guy. He was very friendly. We were standing together in line. I wouldn't have recognized him in a police lineup. But I found out later, he had 5 million followers on just one of his platforms. I mean, that's almost as many as the Prime Minister of Canada. Just this regular guy. So remember that Ipsos survey we were just talking about? Those people who say they're 5 on 10, 6 on 10, 7 on 10 in terms of certainty to vote, this is where they are disproportionately getting their news. For some, like Ellen said, it's Ultimate Fighting podcasts. For others, Call Her Daddy, where last week's episode offered sex tips. And I tell you, it's a whole new world out there.
So every election cycle, there is a conversation about an October surprise, changing the equation. There is a huge hurricane bearing down on Florida. We've just seen catastrophic destruction from Hurricane Helene, also in 2 key swing states, right? North Carolina and Georgia. Ellen, does the response to this factor in right now?
Well, perhaps because of just how key those 2 states are, Georgia and North Carolina, there has been a really intense amount of politicking and misinformation around the Biden administration's response to Hurricane Helene. And much of it has been coming from Donald Trump himself and his allies. Trump went to Georgia after the storm, where he claimed that President Biden was ignoring calls from Georgia's Republican governor. The governor then had to come out and say that wasn't true, that Biden had offered any help the state needs. Trump also said that federal disaster relief funding had been diverted to illegal migrants from the storm. The Federal Emergency Management Agency said that's not true. But it all speaks to attempts to rile up the base in those key states where Trump had already been leading in the polls. Now, beyond the politics here with these storms, there are logistical concerns for voting. People have been displaced. So much infrastructure has been destroyed. So election officials in these states now are scrambling to figure out how all of these people can still vote. And that problem is only going to get worse for officials in Florida, Adrienne, after Milton goes through.
Yeah, you bet. Alex Panetta, Ellen Morrow, thank you both.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next, the fight for access to abortion may be won or lost at the ballot box.
There are just certain things we cannot stay quiet about. This is one of those moments.
The vote that could dramatically change the lives of Americans. Florida voters have a chance to loosen the state's restrictive abortion laws.
I just don't understand why people would even think of killing a baby.
Both sides say the stakes are too high to even think about losing.
As a woman, that's terrifying to me.
Katie Simpson shows us where the law stands now and breaks down the efforts to influence those voters.
Are you a registered voter, miss?
The fight over choice in Florida is on the presidential ballot this fall.
I think the stakes couldn't be higher.
Whether to expand and protect abortion rights.
This is about political interference and control.
This law is designed to make us afraid.
Or keep the state's 6-week ban in place.
The unrighteous nature of Amendment 4.
It's murder.
But what about the child? And what about the father?
Amendment 4.
Amendment 4. Millions of dollars poured into a fight that's taken some unexpected turns.
So your concern is that file clerks could be doing the abortions?
The Amendment 4 doesn't close that door.
As reproductive care hangs in the balance.
The presidential election isn't the only thing before American voters this fall. In 10 states, voters will also be asked about whether to protect or expand access to abortion. We're in Florida because it is one of those states, and it has some of the toughest abortion restrictions in the country. And the fight here over reproductive rights is intense.
We don't want to overwhelm people, but we want them to know that we're a friendly group that you can approach and talk to about this.
On a steamy Sunday in Miami, pro-choice volunteers make their way through a bustling, artsy neighborhood.
Hi, how are you guys?
Among them, Dr. Chelsea Daniels,
So you're gonna enter your name?
who knows firsthand what's at stake.
Hey, are y'all registered to vote in Florida?
While there are a few moments when the message is not welcome,
Yeah. Are you aware that Florida currently has an extreme near total abortion ban, and we have the opportunity to reverse that this November?
Sorry. Can we not do this?
but for the most part, people seem willing to listen.
For someone to tell you what you can and can't do with your body, it's insane.
We know that this is just basic health care, and I think that when you present it to people that way, they're like, yeah, it is. I do support this.
As an abortion provider, she says the current law is difficult to navigate.
Right now, a woman in Florida can only get an abortion before the 6-week mark. That can be before a woman even realizes she's pregnant. There are some exceptions, but the qualifications and the requirements, they're not as straightforward as they seem.
Most doctors don't feel comfortable navigating them, and if you do, and you navigate them wrong, you are subject to losing your license, fines, and criminal penalties. It's hard to not be afraid because this law is designed to make us afraid, and it's working.
Daniel says her clinic network alone has been forced to turn away more than 700 patients since the 6-week ban started in May, including a 20-year-old woman who just moved to the U.S. and does not speak English.
She was past the 6 weeks of pregnancy, so she was no longer able to access an abortion, and she disclosed to our staff that she had been raped.
Daniels says the woman did not qualify for the rape exception because neither she nor the clinic could get a police report to prove a sexual assault happened.
She left my office. She gave me a big hug. She was crying. I was crying. The nurses were crying. It was horrible. Thanks.
Daniels is channeling her frustration into political action, supporting what's called Amendment 4, the ballot question on abortion rights in Florida. Amendment 4 proposes making abortion a right in Florida's Constitution. It would expand access from 6 weeks to the point of viability, or roughly 24 weeks. A no vote keeps the 6-week ban in place. The vote needs 60% support to pass, and the fight is deeply charged because once the Constitution is changed, it's nearly impossible to undo. One of the leading voices against Amendment 4 is the Archbishop of Miami, Thomas Wensky.
Do you have an appointment? Yes, with the Archbishop. So, do you think Amendment 4 is going to pass?
I hope it doesn't.
The Catholic Church preaches life is sacred from the moment of conception.
From our perspective, in which we want to honor all unborn life, we say no on 4.
The no side also says the language in the amendment isn't specific enough about who the abortion care provider would be.
A file clerk is there at the abortion. If something goes wrong and she starts bleeding, that can hurt the woman very much. It could cause her death.
Do you think that file clerks are going to be performing abortion if
well,
this passes?
the Amendment 4 doesn't say they can't. Amendment 4 doesn't say that a doctor has to be involved, that a doctor has to sign off.
Florida law currently states only a physician can terminate a pregnancy, but he claims that could change if Amendment 4 passes.
So we really want to pray that God does remarkable things for these people. Father, thank you.
A couple of hours north of Miami, members of a congregation gather to hear the arguments of the no side.
On behalf of the governor, on behalf of the First Lady, thank you for being here today.
There is some powerful backing here. Eric Dellenbeck is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' faith and community liaison.
There are just certain things we cannot stay quiet about. This is one of those moments.
This audience is firmly anti-abortion.
I'm definitely voting no.
Tell me why.
I just don't understand why people would even think of killing a baby.
There's no protection here. It's murder.
Dellenbeck and his team are on a tour of Florida on the Voice for Life bus, spreading their word town by town, church by church.
What do you say when you hear the yes people argue that they don't want the government to have anything to do with what they see as a medical decision?
One of my fundamental beliefs is that I believe that somebody has to be watching out also for the rights of that child.
He, like the Archbishop, also questions who provides care should Amendment 4 pass.
They use the language healthcare provider. And when you look down that list, I mean, it's massage therapists and acupuncturists, as I was mentioning. I'm just telling you that...
But you don't think massage therapists and acupuncturists are going to end up doing abortion care?
But that's an irrelevant question. It's an irrelevant question because as long as law says they can, in a constitutional amendment, by the way, this isn't just a little statute, then what I'm saying to you is whether I believe it would or wouldn't happen becomes an irrelevant point. You've opened the law for it to be able to happen.
This is just a sample of the rhetoric in this fight. To get a better idea of the actual change the amendment could bring, we headed to the University of Miami to speak with law professor Caroline Mala Corbin.
The language is surprisingly straightforward. It's rare in law that you see things with such clear language.
She says the amendment is simply meant to expand access to abortion and act as a set of guidelines.
And it basically says that the government may not ban abortion before viability or prevent an abortion that's necessary for the woman's health. That's not actually all that complicated.
At the university, students we spoke with want to see the amendment pass.
I am personally pro the amendment. I'm going to be voting yes on 4. I consider myself to be pro-choice.
The fight over reproductive rights and freedoms has drawn more younger voters into the political process, especially those upset by the new restrictions.
As a woman, that's terrifying to me. If there's anything I can do to forward more accessibility for women, that's what I'm in favor for.
What's it like to be living in a state where there's a 6-week abortion ban?
It's scary. I think if me or any of my friends are in a situation where we need an abortion and it's past those 6 weeks, like, we would have to drive, I don't know, like, it's a long drive out of Florida.
The long trek out of Florida has become a reality for thousands of women. The drive to North Carolina, the closest state where abortion is more accessible, can take upwards of 12 hours, depending on where a patient lives. Those are the patients Dr. Chelsea Daniels worries about. To clear and focus her mind, she's training for a marathon, a push to build endurance as she steadies herself in what she sees as the fight for her life's work. A fight her political opponents say they too are ready for, willing to go any distance for their cause to sway the vote this fall.
Now, Katie tells us this Florida proposition needs 60% to pass, but recent polls suggest less than half of voters support it. And this is Florida tonight after Hurricane Milton slammed into the Gulf Coast. Some officials say this threatens to be the storm of the century. We're already seeing fierce winds, but there are warnings of a deadly storm surge. We're in Florida. We will bring you the latest here on The National. This is like something from a dream, watching the northern lights from space. Matthew Dominic got to live that fantasy when he recorded a time-lapse on Monday. Over 300 images were combined, taken through the window of a spacecraft, giving us a dazzling view of the cosmos. Tonight, his dreamlike visuals make our moment.
It's really one of the most emotionally evocative things that you can see in nature. This is where space and Earth meet. The aurora, it's caused by particles, charged particles coming down the magnetic field lines and hitting the Earth's atmosphere. It extends quite high up into space. If you think about the astronaut, he's flying along in space. So he's maybe 600 kilometers up in altitude. That bright green stuff below him You can think about that as the top of our atmosphere in some ways. When you look at the aurora, you're really looking at our cosmic shore. This is really like waves washing up on the beach, and you're looking at the interaction of our environment with the space environment. We've seen it here in Calgary the last few nights. It's been spectacular. I mean, really beautiful. And it's, like I could say, spiritual, but for me, you know, it's the edge of the cosmos.
The astronaut who took these pictures is the same one who's been taking pictures of Hurricane Milton that we've been showing you. What a view he's had. From all of us at the National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.